Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Well, hello there. It's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 41 of the Cognitive Podcast. I'm going to say it one more time. I can't add you to my follower group on social media. If you'd like to follow me, you can follow me on Ravelry. You can follow me at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Okay, you can follow me as a friend on Ravelry, and we also have a group on Ravelry. Lots of weird spam robot people out there on social media. Meanwhile, though, comments are welcome, so please comment again at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com or on our cognitive group on Ravelry. You can add yourself to the listener's map. You can watch my YouTube channel, creatively named Dr. spelled out Gemma. And I have a lot of little things there. I haven't updated that in about a year. But if you want some flash tips or you want to hear about the way I talk to patients, go right ahead. Meanwhile, in the warm thanks department, I have to thank Howard at Top Out Climbing. The guy got me climbing, and he got me climbing by using my own tricks against me. Seriously, it was a total cognitive behavioral experiment, and you'll be hearing all about it in this episode. Okay, what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, I used to say. Actually, I don't say that anymore because I have the Dizzy Blonde section, but you're still wondering what's on my hooks and needles. Well, nothing finished. In progress, and very, very sporadic at that, I have the really pretty socks. On sock number 2, I am doing the foot. I have passed the waist yarn for the afterthought heel, and I'm working my way down the 5 3/4 inches that I love to call my foot, which then ends in a toe. And of course, the toe is exactly like the heel that I insert with the waist yarn later on. So we do have some good progress there. I'm very happy about that. This is also good because if I go north to visit my dear friends in San Jose, expecting to land there August 30th, in fact, I will want to take the wild lettuce shawl with me and work on it and see if I can finish it because Gigi has heroically offered to help me block it. We have done this before. It's been a lot of fun, and it's really rewarding not to do it in my cluttered house, let me tell you. Twin Face's vest is still in the mail. Actually, it's not. She never put it in the mail. Everybody groaned aloud with me. There's no way I'm getting that thing done by September 4th at this point. There might be an offhand chance if I took it along with me to San Jose that I'm sure the ladies would encourage me to knit my brains out. But I'm not that fast a knitter to do the upper front and upper back. And Twin Face, I don't even know what to say. She just can't get the concept of measuring herself, that she really thinks that knitting patterns are these sort of off-the-rack type things. So if you can buy it off the rack in a store to fit you, surely you can buy a knitting pattern to fit you, except Twin Face is 6 feet tall. She can't buy a darn thing in the store that fits her. This does not stop her. She's got a very small chest for a woman our age and that height, and she's got normal-sized hips for a slender woman that height. It's like, So she's getting a hip-wide vest at this point because I can't do anything else because she won't measure anything. Meanwhile, the temperature blanket is beautiful. It is caught up. And one of the reasons I'm not getting the socks done is I'm doing the temperature blanket to keep it caught up because it becomes a bummer when it's like 5 rows behind. Right now, we are just trapped in the orange and orange-yellow that is called Caution. And I'm still enjoying it. I just love this big, bright, orangey phase of the blanket. We'll be back in the cooler greens soon enough. I hope. August and September are coming. That should get us into the really hideous reds. They're beautiful reds, actually, but nevertheless, I am enjoying it, and I can't get over that I've been doing this thing for almost 8 months, and I'm still enjoying it. I tend to catch it up every 2 or 3 days, and again, it's really taught me about keeping my rows at the same width and generally crocheting better, which I didn't think I had that much to learn, but apparently I did. So I'm feeling very, very fond of it as I look at it over here in a very colorful heap, mostly showing oranges and yellows and a little bit of green as it just gracefully flops next to me in the box that contains its yarns as well. I don't usually say this, but as you know, my 2 favorite resources these days are Lisa Souza yarns and webs. And I want everybody to cross their fingers because Lisa's up there in the fire zone. So please, if you have a little room in your heart tonight, say a little prayer for our Lisa. We're a bit worried about them. And for Rod too, and the animals. I just hope everything's going okay up there. It's tough when you live in California. You know this could be you at any time. For some reason this year so far it hasn't been. And our hearts are with you, Lisa and Rod. I hope everybody is safe and you're doing well. Meanwhile, Dizzy Blondes, yes, I am still working on the insanely beautiful pin drafted merino from MorroBayFleeceworks.com. I am on the 3rd bobbin. These are huge bobbins, and I'm on number 3. And I don't know. I just am trying to get through it. My electric eel wheel, unfortunately, has taken to stalling about every 10 minutes with this. Now, in between some of these bobbins, I did some BFL, and the wheel did just great. It went nonstop from beginning to end, which leads me to believe that I'm putting too much pressure holding the fiber in my hands. I'm not letting it feed well enough. So think well of me, but I am loving the thing. And it is coming out spectacularly beautiful. And will I get a sweater from it? Well, maybe, maybe not. Maybe if I blend it with some of my other stash of colored fiber. I don't know. Or maybe if I take some of the already spun colored fibers and make sort of a crazy quilt of a sweater. I don't know. Suddenly, from never having any desire to spin for a sweater, suddenly, I still don't, by the way, but suddenly I just have enough to look at it seriously as a sweater in 2 different types of yarn now. One is the beautiful silk wool, and the other is this beautiful solid wool. And I don't know, and they're actually pretty close in color, but if I blend them in one sweater, you'll be able to tell probably. On the other hand, that may not be a bad idea just to get stripes. But I'm looking at potentially 2 sweaters here, and I'm sort of fascinated by this. Let's move on to a strategy, shall we? Oh, I need it today. Well, of course, we've been talking about mindfulness. And I want to talk about the 3 states of mind that we have, or that we recognize in mindfulness. And they are reason mind, emotion mind, and wise mind. Can you guess which one we're going to favor? Wise mind is the intersection of the other 2. In other words, to make good judgments, you have to be both reasonable and emotional. It's often hard because my generation grew up with Mr. Spock, and we were led to believe back in the 60s that he was rational mind and that was the best. Except as the series progressed, they began to realize that Spock would be really messed up if he actually was that way with a human background as well. And so they really presented it as Kirk was wise mind benefiting from McCoy as emotional mind and Spock as reason mind. And they play that for all sorts of values, but it's not a bad literary model, I have to say. Now, the idea is, if you have only emotion mind, we can all see where that's going to go wrong. You're going to be flying off the handle, hysterical, running amok, not thinking things through. So, gosh, it must be better to use reason mind. But the answer is, it isn't. That reason mind makes you cold. It can make you unfeeling. It can make you unaware of the effects that consequences will have on you and the people around you. that one of the mistakes here is when you think of Mr. Spock as reason mind, he's often played himself as wise mind. That he often is able to look at emotional consequence and they somehow pretend it's logical, So, Star Trek, what am I saying? Not the perfect Buddhist model here. But meanwhile, the idea is you want to use both your reason and your emotion. Because you need to be able to look at a situation and stand back, and you need to simply try to describe it without judgment and without emotion. And this is reason mind, that you stand back and you say, this is what I observe is going on. This is what I see happening. And at this point, the emotion comes in because you say, how is this going to affect everybody? How do I really feel about this event? What do I think should happen here? The problem is you don't want to start with that. That you really have to balance these two things. I mean, I guess you can start any judgment with, what do I want to happen here? But again, you can hear it sounds like rational mind, not emotion mind when I do that. The idea is, look, you're trying to blend emotion and reason. Reason without emotion is just sterile and heartless. Emotion without reason is hysteria. So you need to keep them together. And the idea is, first, in order to make this kick in, stand back, describe the situation to yourself, consider pros and cons, and then talk to yourself about how you feel about the situation and what other problems or solutions it may create. From that place, you can do problem solving and reality testing and all the other cool skills. So today in mindfulness, I want you to think about the idea that you need to shift yourself into wise mind when you're making decisions. And wise mind is a benefit of mindfulness, that if you are staying in this moment and trying to make this the best possible moment, definitely you're going to be using wise mind, because wise mind will tell you this moment may not always be a happy moment. That doesn't make it a bad moment. Okay, and I feel like now I'm reverting to the Pixar movie about feelings, that I feel like Joy here is saying, hey, bring over sadness, But anyway, I guess that is what I'm saying. There's a lot to be said for that movie. And at any rate, I'm not going to do a movie review. But what I would tell you is, when you're trying to do mindfulness, remember that a huge component of staying in this moment and seeing the benefits of this moment is the ability to describe your situation and assess it from the point of view of rationality and non-judgmental emotion. Okay, let's go on to put a lid on it. Well, interesting things. In the keto dieting world, there is a person on Instagram called LCHF_Italian, low carb, high fiber Italian. She does really interesting keto cooking from Italy and various places around Western Europe. And she has now joined up with a researcher at Stanford who I think is in nutrition. And they're doing this keto boot camp. And you really should know LCHF Italian if you want to go low carb. If you don't feel you need to be keto, but you just want to be paleo or low carb, she's really good to know because she gets you out of the American recipe books, which I'm really, really happy about. I get a bit tired of all the Americanized recipes. This is not to diss the great people who create these things. Believe me, I'm a huge fan of Carolyn Ketchum's series of cookbooks. But, you need to break out a little bit. And LCHF_Italian does this very well. And this month, if you go to her page on Instagram, you will see the hashtag Keto Boot Camp and probably something about Stanford. It is really nice because it means that a very reputable institution for research like Stanford is now taking keto more seriously. We kind of need that. Those of us in the diabetic community especially, because frankly, the normal diets for diabetes don't work, in my humble opinion, from experience. Keto's working great for me. Lost the weight, keeping the sugar down, and the blood pressure, I might add. So I haven't been doing any great experimental cooking this week, but I have been rewarding myself with a lot of sushi. And that brings me back to Offshoot and the Blather. Fit desk mileage for last week, none. Why? Because I went rock climbing on a wall in a gym. It's a totally rock climbing gym in Santa Clarita, but they have a wall with auto belaying, which means you are in a harness around your waist and then 2 loops, one around each thigh. And at your waist, there's a big strong hook, and it connects to a carabiner with a safety latch on it. And that connects to a long webbing rope that goes up to the ceiling to an engine that catches you when you drop, the belaying engine. And I don't know where you get your kicks. Some people, that drop in the harness would sound really fun. You'd think it would be, but I'm afraid of heights. Now, I mentioned, I believe in the last episode, that I was doing this. And this week was really remarkable because I got to the top. It took me 4 days, counting my first day that I described with Howie teaching me. But on the 4th day, I got to the top. I've only done it once because when I got up there, I just couldn't look around. I was so shocked I did it. I didn't mean to get up there. I just got so close to it. I said, hey, look, 1, 2, I'm there. There's a little tag that says finish. I tapped the tag and I came down. And I have not been up there to look around and try to get my bearings and see if I can get over my acrophobia. But I made it to the top. And it's been a really wonderful experience. And there is a picture of me in the notes, hanging there in my harness at about 20 feet in the air. And you can see the engine. You can follow the rope I'm hooked to. You can follow it up to the engine. And you can also see a pretty clear trail up the easy climb rocks, which I have no problem with, and I'm on easy climb rocks. I've come to the understanding that my goal is not to keep climbing to the top, although I probably will teach myself to do that. My goal is actually just to climb until my arms burn. Because, as all of us runners know, when your muscles burn, they're tearing themselves apart to replace themselves with stronger muscle. So on the 4th time there at the gym, I got to the top. But mostly I experimented with being farther off the ground. I'd gotten used to about 20 feet at that point, and I experimented with being 25 feet. And the top of the wall is 30 feet as far as I can tell. And I'm trying to teach myself to belay more like a graceful human than a sack of potatoes strapped into a harness. And I'm trying to teach myself not to slam into the wall when I'm belaying, but to land on my feet on the wall in a crouching position and gracefully lower myself down like I've been doing this my whole life. I've also been trying to teach myself to simply look around up there and not get dizzy with the height, and that is surprisingly doable. I really didn't think that was going to be possible for me, but it's odd because when I have a hard time doing it, I actually look at the rope and say, I'm safe. That if I let go completely, I'll just bounce to the bottom like a lumpy bag of potatoes, but I'm not going to get hurt. I'm in a belaying harness. And there's very, very, very few accidents with belaying harnesses in auto belay situations. Most of them are you didn't do your hookup right, you didn't get the carabiner right. Hey guys, it's not rocket science. You just click it, make sure it's in the totally closed position and twisted so that it can't come open, and you're there. And as Howie says, you check it at the bottom and you check it right before you let go. This is not a hard thing to do. I'm using a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, and that makes me really, really happy. The way I even got as far as I got on my, I think it was my 2nd climb where I took the picture, was instead of focusing on my fear, I focused on using a tripod and my phone camera and an auto-release shutter that is tiny enough to fit in my bra to take a picture of myself. And I got very focused on getting a good picture. To my shock, I did it fairly easily. But then the second shock was I looked at the picture and I saw myself as a climber. And that was really startling because I just look like everybody else. Well, okay, everybody else wears shorts. I wear my running leggings because they say dress like you're going to the gym. I go to the gym to run, So I'm wearing running clothes. But essentially, I just look like a person climbing a rock wall. I don't look like a klutz or an idiot or anything else. So it was really a shock to see myself in the harness and to see myself simply as a perfectly normal, competent climber on an auto belay wall. It is very addictive, and I really, really enjoy it. and there will be more of it in the blather. But yeah, this week's achievement was working on my fear of heights, working on my fear of belaying, and getting 30 feet up in the air on this wall. Do I have any desire to climb barehanded without a rope? Are you nuts? No. But I do think it's cool to be someone heading towards their 61st birthday and improving my upper body strength and learning a new skill. And it's a lot of fun with the auto belay. So there we are, Gemma on the rock wall. I am still on the lookout for an e-bike, but there's been no progress in that area. I have really mixed feelings about it the more I think about it, because I think, am I going to stop being fit? What if I get an e-bike and I stop pedaling the hard stuff? I've always been really proud of my ability to ride from Ojai to Ventura, which is up to 18 miles, depending on where you start, usually somewhere between 16 and 18 miles. And I find myself thinking, is this what I really want? Actually, yes, but what I really want is to stop taking the bus up. That instead of catching a bus back to Ojai with my bike on the front, where I'm exposed to other people who might have COVID, frankly, the e-bike could take me uphill, as long as the battery stays alive to do it. I would rather park in Ojai than in Ventura, but it would be much safer to start in Ventura, bike uphill, and then, take the e-bike uphill for the tough parts, and then be able to pedal on the downhill. I don't know. I don't know if the e-bike battery would take me that far. It's only got like a 20-mile range. I might have to learn to carry a spare charged battery. We shall see. These are the problems of a different episode. I'll be back to it, in other words. Fluffy books. Well, I finished the Constable Evans series. Oh, no. Seriously, just missed those last two books. The last one especially, Heavenly Bodies. Oh, Lord. The name sounds like they're having an orgy, but no, it's worse than that. In one fell swoop, Riz Bowen alienated me by having Constable Evans turn in women who murdered their physically abusive husbands and resorted to every cheap anti-Islamic stereotype you could resort to in one novel. Now, here's the thing. It's a cozy. These are meant to be cozies. Well, they were in the beginning, but round about the second to last novel, she just loses her mind. They start getting kind of dark. It's hard to write a cozy mystery with a constable set in the 1990s or later, I admit. But, boy, talk about a fail. The thing is, it's not that I believe that women who are physically abused should murder their husbands, but it really left you out of sympathy for the protagonist. But then there was the Pakistani family who moves into the village in Wales, in North Wales. We could have focused on so many useful things. That is an issue in Britain, that, Britain is struggling to racially integrate itself. I don't know if the abuses of people of color are quite as bad in Britain. I don't know. I just don't know, to be honest. But surely we can do better than every time we introduce an Islamic family, we have to radicalize one of them and make him a crazy bomber, right? Okay, let's say you say, well, she has the right to do that. After all, in her other books, she has radicalized Christians. So, why can't she have a radicalized Muslim? Well, here's one good reason. I'm not really worried about Christians being persecuted in Great Britain, but I am a little worried about Muslims, okay? And the other thing is, if you're going to do this, I'm cringing, but if you must do this, surely there should have been more discussion of how non-radicalized Muslims feel in a predominantly white conservative country like Wales. And she gestures towards it. She talks about how the one radicalized guy, his roommates, don't want to help the constable because they're just tired of getting kicked around by the British police. And there's one good moment where in the very beginning, when the Pakistani family moves in and takes over the grocery, the local butcher, who has always been anti-outsider, actually backs them. And he says, they're like us. They know what it's like to be colonized by the English and treated badly. We should actually welcome them. And I think, hey, there was a good start for a plot, but no. So you can see where that's going to go. Just don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. I'm sorry I even paid for this book. Don't waste your time. It's Heavenly Bodies. I can't really remember the book before it. The book before it, I'm trying to remember what the title of it is. Actually, like the last 3 books, I would kind of skip in the series because they're all just too dark. If you want to know what happens to Constable Evans and his on-again, off-again girlfriend, the school teacher, come on, man, you can predict it. These are fluffy books. You don't need to read them to realize what they're going to do. Okay, so all I can say is, wow, that was a good series that just burned out at the end really, really disappointingly and frustratingly. Like, oh, man. And also you think, all in one book. I mean, surely she could have written the book where Evans sells out the abused women. And that would have alienated me. And I wouldn't have wasted my time going on to the next book, which would involve the radicalized Islamic youth. You know, like, did you have to do it both in one book? Like, what was that? A kamikaze ending to the series? Dreadful. I was just, ugh. Okay. On the other hand, I am reading a new one, Bait and Witch. This is a cozy that advertises itself as the start of a series, and it's only the first book. It's just been released. It's by Angela Sanders. It's fun. Now, there is a new thing in cozies of witchcraft cozies, where the usual plot is something like an adorable witch who's just lovable and cute but doesn't know it, of course. Kind of like an Anne McCaffrey novel, except no dragons, really. But anyway, she has these powers she doesn't know about. She goes to the new place where her powers emerge. And these are all over the cozies. And they're fun. I mean, after all, cozies are cozies. They have very predictable plot lines. I don't want to be threatened by my books. Thank you, Riz Bowen, for ruining that. So, Bait and Witch, very typical plot, but I'm enjoying it, very fluffy. I still have Mystical Stitches sitting on my bookcase, and I haven't read it, but I thought, to tempt you, I would put it up with its dedication, which is a beautiful dedication because freehand embroidery, which is what Mystical Stitches is one of these wonderful things. As a kid, I loved it, and I used to like to do it. And I used to do it on my clothing. And I didn't do the hippie stuff. I just occasionally put flowers on my jeans. Or when I learned to sew, I made wrap skirts. And I always used a very heavy blue cotton to give them weight. But I would always embroider on the outer part of the wrap. It's got me in trouble in sewing class a few times. I have no idea why. I think freehand embroidery is just lovely. And it looks very primitive and folksy, and I like it. That's what I like about Mystical Stitches, that she's encouraging you to design things and go do that stuff. It sounds like she might be a little witchy too, but she dedicates the book to all of us who've been told that we're not good enough as artists or crafters, and you gotta love her for that one. So hopefully I'll get to a better review of Mystical Stitches if I can stop reading junk fluff novels. Something I really like. Oh, it was hard not to talk about Star Trek Discovery this week, but maybe I'll get to it next week. I really like my new bendy-legged iPhone tripod with its handy manual shutter release. Okay, I bought this thing for $15. Talk about 15 of the best dollars ever spent. It's on Amazon, okay? And you can wrap it around your bike handlebars, which is nice for the fit desk. You can just stand it on its nice legs. You can bend its legs so it can be on uneven surfaces, which I've been doing, using it in my study to hold my phone, because everything comes better on my phone. Zoom, Doxy.me, they're working much better using my phone, even though the people are really tiny for my eyes. But I am loving this thing, and this is the very tripod that captured the memorable picture of Gemma hanging off the side of a rock wall. And there's a good picture from Amazon of what I'm talking about, phone not included. What I didn't know was it came with the handy little manual shutter release. It is totally, totally user-friendly. In fact, it's user-appallingly obvious. You just turn the little switch on the shutter release, and you turn it in the on position, and you hook it up with Bluetooth to your camera using the typical Bluetooth hookup. And then you put that little shutter release, which is sort of like 1.5 quarters in its size. You stick that in your bra and you climb a rock wall. And then you get this really cool action shot of yourself. You know, I'm just saying. It's not a drone, but it's pretty good. So today's something I really like is my new buddy, the tripod. And I literally am taking it everywhere with me. You can use it as a stick, like a camera stick, with all the legs held together, and click the release shutter while you grin at yourself from a few feet away. You can use it as a tripod. You can use it to capture really wonderful pictures of yourself hanging in space trying not to die. True, I would love to take a GoPro up the wall. I pulled out my old GoPro and it's pretty much dead in the water, which is really disappointing. I have the old Hero Plus, the very second model they made. They're now up to the Hero 9 Plus, I think. And the beloved is looking at it for a birthday present because the Hero Plus died and it's not all that revivable. And frankly, the new Hero, the Hero 7 Plus, is like $150. So these aren't terribly expensive cameras. So I'm thinking about getting a GoPro on when I do my climbing. But I have to tell you, the little tripod, really enjoyed it. Really thought it was super. And I'm really grateful for it. So on to the blather. We still have not played the Black Brim mystery game, which also means we haven't played Exploding Kittens. We haven't played Llamas Unleashed. I keep collecting these card games that we could play, and yet we never do. Very, very frustrating. However, my son is beginning to get interested in the card games. Now, if I could just get everybody around a pizza to play Black Brim. The spearmint. You may remember my spearmint patch. My spearmint patch did something I've never seen spearmint do, but I'm sure it does. It's flowered. I had never seen a spearmint flower, so if you go into the notes, you can see it. The spearmint was heroic. A patient many years ago gave me 2 little plants and said, "These will grow for you." And I said, "Well, it's very hot around my house." And she looked at me, rolled up her eyes and said, "I'm Native American. These are from our patch. These will grow for you." I said, "You got it." I put them in. They struggled. Suddenly this year, they exploded. This has to be now 6-7 years on from when I planted them. But they exploded and they're taking over the front area, which I love. They did not die out this year with the heat until very late. They just recently died out, frankly. And I didn't harvest them much. We would just occasionally pick up stray leaves and chew them or enjoy them crumbled between our fingers. I made a few cups of tea. But I simply enjoyed just having them there, and I didn't want to harvest them because I want them to just really, really go crazy, and they seem to be doing it. So we have a few pathetic leaves left, but mostly we have the spearmint flowers, and I'm really happy about that. Long may they flourish and flower. Next year, when they are well established, I may transplant a few over to the other side, because now where they are, they're finally killing the weeds, which is what I wanted them to do. And those weeds are taking a lot of killing, let me tell you. So I'm hoping we can put them on the other side. In case you're wondering, those of you who may remember Audrey 3, my beautiful, beautiful plant by the porch swing that unfortunately was chopped down with all good intentions a while back. Audrey 3 is also growing well. She had some remaining shoots and she's growing like a weed. And I'm really, really happy about that. So Audrey 3 will also be on the return, and hopefully we'll see pictures next year of her if all goes well. Meanwhile, I am preparing for my 61st birthday. You got it. I decided I want to spend my 61st birthday on the climbing wall in a tiara and a birthday girl sash. Stay tuned. Because, you know, how badass is that? Sorry, cover the kids' ears. I'll stop doing it. But I mean, how amazing is that? You're 61 years old and you're climbing rock walls. I am tired of hearing how I'm a geriatric at 60. When I was young, you were a geriatric at 65 at the youngest. Now they're pushing that baby back to 55. No, absolutely not. Now the thing about it is you do realize when you hit my age that you're lucky. That I have friends who've died. And they dropped dead. Bad luck. You know, like genetic stuff that couldn't be helped. And I have several friends who have genetic disorders or congenital problems that mean that, no, they're not going to climb rock walls at 61. So it's weird because in a sense, you still feel young. I just saw a magazine article that said the 60s are the new 40s. Not for all of us, by any means. But I'm having a good 60s right now, and I plan to keep doing that. So if you're my age and you're not going to climb a rock wall, well, I'm climbing it for you in spirit. But my own decision is I'm very, very fortunate that even with a few metabolic problems like diabetes, I'm still out there and I'm still going and I'm having a lot of fun. And I really would like to be that way. I really want to age as powerfully as I can. So now, as I said, the goal is not to climb the rock wall to the top. The goal is simply climb up high enough, come down, climb up high enough, come down, and keep doing it till my arms burn so that I can build muscle. It is a lot more fun than lifting weights, let me tell you. It is like a whole different universe to lifting weights. So yes, I went on Amazon. Yes, I got a tiara. Yes, it cost me like $8. Yes, it has a beautiful sparkly pink sash that I think it says birthday girl. You'll find out when that time comes. But the goal is, and the beloved has been told, the beloved spouse, that he has to go with me to the gym on my birthday, and I'm climbing in the sash and the tiara, and he's got to take the epic picture. In the meantime, you may remember that my son is climbing, and I keep posting pictures of him gracefully belaying down the wall, because he really is. He's just beautiful to watch. He's very skilled. He's incredibly strong. He pulls himself up these really difficult rock paths with just his arms, carrying his whole body. I mean, lordy, he's strong. So, of course, you knew how this was going to go. Now that I'm starting to climb, I took him on my second climbing day. That originally I climbed, a week ago Monday, so I think it was like the 11th. This is Tuesday, August 17th at 9:13 p.m., in case you're wondering. So Monday was the 16th, right? So I took him on the 9th. I went on my own for the first time on the 9th. And then I realized I wanted to go back. It was a craving. And I was having this really wild experience where sometimes I'd be panicked at the thought of going back, and sometimes I'd be really excited. So the way to solve that, take your 15-year-old who's a master climber. And we had the best time. We drove all the way down talking climbing, and he was telling me things about his interests, and he was asking questions about physics, and I was trying to answer, to talk about the physics of electricity in the power lines, but also the physics of climbing rock walls and pivoting around the anchor point at your waist and all that sort of thing. We had a blast, and afterwards he said, well, I want to get lunch. And I said, yeah. And he said, let's go to McDonald's. And I said, no. And we ended up working on how do you negotiate. And so we agreed he wanted a burger, I wanted a salad. We ended up at the Habit Grill. I had wanted to go for sushi, really, but that was a negotiation, that he could have his burger and I could have my salad, and we'd all be happy. It was so much fun. And so there's a picture there of him belaying wildly. And let me think. So that was on Thursday. And then we went back Sunday, and Sunday was good because it was crowded, and I needed that. I needed to learn, like, what do you do when there's a lot of people competing for the 7 belaying ropes? And it was fun, and I got to talk to a lot of people, and my son was awesome because he's on all the non-crowded stuff because he's so strong. Like, half the people in the gym can't do the stuff he does. So we got to do that, and that was really, really cool. And so I told him we're going again tomorrow. So we went yesterday, Monday morning, and he climbed what's called the top out wall, no rope. And I think there's a picture of that. Did I put the top out wall? Yes, I have a picture of me and him in the car after we climbed the first time and him belaying the first time. And there's our lunch on that first date. And then there's a picture of the top that I reached yesterday, 30 feet off the ground. But then there's a picture of him being Joe Macho going up the top out wall, where when you get to the top, you climb over the top, and there's a lounge up there, and they have a foosball table. So I went up the back steps. I cheated. I'm not climbing that thing. There's no rope on him, man. I'm not doing that. And I cheated, and I went up the back steps, and we played a game of foosball. It was very, very close, and frankly, there was a lot of luck involved. But we played foosball. I don't know if I've ever played a complete game of that before, but it's a riot to be at the top of this, 30 feet in the air at the top of this rock wall playing foosball with your kid in the secret place. And there's a picture of him hanging on that rock wall, which still makes my heart seize up. He is so incredibly powerful. So we just had a great time yesterday and Sunday and Thursday. And, afterwards we try and get at least him lunch, because oftentimes he has to get back for another appointment he's got. School has not started for him yet, but he has some in-home sessions when he gets home, and so we have to get him back in time. And it's been so cool. And what's really cool is now my husband is thinking about trying it, And I just think it's a great idea. And my husband was shy because, like all guys his age, they all start worrying about their weight and their looks. So I'm hoping this becomes a family thing. And of course, to be realistic, when I got down yesterday, I had to stop a few times because I don't know if it was panic, nerves, aging, or what, but I definitely had to get to the bottom and try to catch my breath. And it definitely was not easy. And a lot of my arm pain, I realized that I thought of as tiring my arms and my arms burning, was actually anxiety in my arms. If you can believe that, you actually can feel it in your arm muscles. But I knew yesterday, after I reached the top, I didn't try a second time. What I did was I just went up about 25 feet, almost there, and I worked on looking around calmly, and I also worked on just go up, come down, because I wanted to really work out my arms and upper body, and let me tell you, I did. So there we go. It's been a great rock climbing kind of crazy week, and all I can say is today, as I record this, is International Black Cat Appreciation Day. So Minerva is appreciated, and she appreciates all us peasants. I put up 2 videos of Minerva, and they are Minerva fetching, because I thought that was pretty amazing. So video number 1 is me getting her attention and throwing the Lego toy. Video number 2 is where she brings it back, and I pull it out. She drops it, and it falls into the covers, and I pull it out and show it to you. So Minerva's last word is, remember, you don't need a DOG if you have Minerva. She'll fetch for you. And so all I can say there is Happy International Black Cat Appreciation Day. Now, it's been a hard week out there in the big world. And I've stayed away from that pretty intentionally in this podcast. Currently, I have 2 patients who have members of their immediate family who are pretty much going to die of COVID this week. And I thought we were going to get that last year, but no, it's this year. And no, it's the unvaccinated. And oh, I've had enough of this. So all I can tell you is please remember, kids under 12 can't get vaccinated. There are immunocompromised people who can't get vaccinated. Please remember them. And when you're getting angry at the unvaccinated, remember a lot of them would be if they could be. As for the others, I'm just kind of done with them. I think most of us who are vaccinated are kind of done with them. All I can tell you is please hang in there with your masks. Please remember there are a lot of good people who really deserve to be protected by you. And I'm so grateful you're doing it. I have to tell you, if you're wearing your mask and you're trying to be faithful to that, I really want to thank you. I'm a minor member of the healthcare community. I don't have to go into hospitals and look at this face-to-face with death. And even so, seriously, thank you for wearing your mask. Thank you for getting vaccinated. Thank you for every time I sit down to talk to a patient and I don't have to face somebody dying of COVID. Thank you. I don't know if I have the right to represent the whole medical community by any means or the healthcare community, but I swear to you, I am so grateful if you are still masking up and doing social distance and washing your hands and thinking of other people. Thank you. I'm totally up there with former Governor Schwarzenegger, who basically said the people who won't mask up and vax up are selfish gits. I could not agree more. Thank you for all that you're doing to protect people who deserve to be protected. And yes, hats off to President Biden. We're going to get the booster shot at 8 months. It will not become available to healthcare workers till October. For me, that is going to be actually, that's just about 8 months. I'll just about make it in there. I am so grateful for the idea that we're going to get the booster shot. So thank you, all of you who are observing all the COVID precautions. I cannot thank you enough. Because remember, it really still just comes down to all of us. Please stay safe and take care of each other. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at Cognitive Podcast, all one word, cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.